Hello everyone, welcome to the first look, and today's video is another FatFreq. And this particular IEM here, well, this is the FatFreq Maestro SE. Now this is a case of an IEM, not of one that I have never seen or hear before. I have seen and hear before, but I'm really impressed. But it was not the same configuration. This configuration here is the configuration that you get in retail. The version that I have tested, not exactly, because they have the upgraded cables, and then there's also other tips that I tried. But I'm very impressed by it, and I decided to get it. And you know what? They told me there's a set available, and not only that, they gave me a discount because I just purchased a Scarlett not too far back. So if you are a FatFreq user, just know that FatFreq do offer you a discount as long as you tell them that you have purchased a previous IEM. They may be willing to give you another few percent off, 10, 15, something like this. Then it will make the whole deal better, because to start with, FatFreq IEMs, at least for their middle to high, is a little bit, I say, more affordable than the other brands that are well known in terms of its price. In fact, if you look at something like the Annihilator, it costs more money than even the Grand Maestro. Now the Maestro SE here. So let's take a look at its retail packaging and how does it sound straight out of the box. Now I do know the configuration that I tried that time is the upgraded cable together with a different tip, the Divinus, for me when I tried it. That is quite good. But today I just want to hear its default configuration and give you a very quick initial impression. So this is the Maestro SE, the box itself. Unlike the, I would say, Scarlett, it comes with a very special colored box. This one doesn't. So this is of course the welcome to the family card by FatFreq, and this is how the packaging looks like. So you can see this is the IEMs. This is the silica gel, and you can see that there's these numbers here, and I believe these are the serial numbers to how many sets they have produced so far. And then these are the interchangeable tips and the interchangeable cables. So FatFreq default cables for their high-end IEMs are these silver cables that has interchangeable heads. Now this is unlike their lower series. In fact, their Maestro series, and I believe the Scarlett and Maestro Mini series, comes with the default black cable, which I did feedback that it's not that great, but they say that it increases soundstage. Debatable affair here. Depends on which IEM you use and which player you use to play them. I do think a balanced cable on general is still better. But anyway, the cable that they gave for the default Maestro SE is this silver cable with the interchangeable heads. So let's take a look at the IEM itself. This is the Maestro SE, and this is the default color. Now if you are in Singapore, they can actually reshell your universal for a certain amount of price, be it to change its color, to change its plate, or even fix the entire shell itself. They are more than willing to do it for you, and of course a certain price. I believe they were saying that to change the plate, the faceplate itself, is 99 Sing dollars. Now this Maestro SE here, you can see here, it is in of course it's brand new, so it's a very good condition. This is a default tip, the same tip that comes with the Scarlett Mini, and then this is the whole IEM. It's actually a very chunky IEM. In fact, this is a really big one. To just show you the difference, let me show you something of this is like, notice this is the U12T, a whole lot smaller, really a whole lot smaller. And if you look from front, it's also a whole lot smaller too. So the Maestro SE to me is actually a very chunky IEM. Looks very similar to what I had for the, I believe, Canera Loki itself. Very similar in size. Now this IEM, for its size, is because I couldn't find the exact spec. I do know that it has 4 EST inside, it has some BA drivers, and it has some dynamic drivers. But based on some other reviews I just browsed through, there should be 7 BA drivers, 1 dynamic driver, and 4 ESTs. The exact number I'm not too sure, but just know that it will probably, I'm pretty sure it will probably have more than 7 to 8 drivers built into this. That includes 1 dynamic, a 4 EST, and some sort of a BA. How many numbers? I'm not too sure, right? And this is pretty much why it's so chunky, because the moment you have a dynamic driver in addition to all the BA and stuff, it's going to be big. Dynamic drivers are huge. And also FatFreq says that they have all the technology such as linear impedance, bass boost, bass cannon, and then they have the thing that they boost the overall sound. I forgot what is the name of it. I think it doesn't really matter. But just know that, you know, all the technologies that they always sell with the other IEMs are also in this particular one. The cable they gave is the silver cable, but before we go there, let's take a look at the heads first. This is the nozzle. The nozzle is, I would say, is a mid to big size nozzle, not too huge. It has a slight lip here so that you can actually put most of the kind of tips in, and it do hold in place nicely. Now, for the nozzle itself, I can see 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 hole. I can see 3 holes. Not very exact, but I can see 3 holes on the nozzle itself, and the tips do fit on very easily. I mean, I can show you. I probably forced the tip on quite simply. Bad demonstration. Yeah, bad demonstration. Yes. Okay. Now, one of the things that I did notice when I tried it in the shop previously is that it is a very long IEM, and as such, what you want is tips that are a little bit shorter if possible. I have not tried it with default tip before, so I will give you a feedback later, but you can see this is a really long IEM, and this thing will jut out over here significantly. Now, the cables itself, this is a silver cable according to them. I do not know what is this material. I believe this is just silver itself. And then just show you the connector. Now, the connector for this is relatively recessed. You can see that this is a very recessed connector. So you have to get a connector that can go so deep, and it must have that plastic square head, and it goes deep enough into this connector. So it's very recessed. And you can see here, even though there's so much plastic here, this whole thing will sink in fully, as you can see when I push it in. It's quite recessed of a 2-pin tip. It does, I know, to some people, it does make it a lot stronger, because now the tip is held by the plastic on the wire, and of course the protection of the things around the actual IEM itself. So not too sure whether is that true. Definitely stronger than a flat 2-pin, but do you need to be so recessed? That's another question of its own. And you look at the cable itself, I mean, this is pure silver cable, nothing too special. Construction, it doesn't show that it's really expensive. You can see this is like a very simple in the middle connector, nothing too fancy or what. It doesn't even have the engraving of FatFreq here. And then this is the tip itself. The tip itself, you just screw and you can open up the tip, and then you can pull this out, I believe. Let me pull this out. Yes, you can pull this out, and then it will expose the tip itself. Then you can change to any of the tips they give. So in this case, I will actually change to a 4.4mm, because I believe that such IEMs should be tested balanced, because they need so much power to drive, especially for FatFreq stuff. Now, to align the thing is very simple. You will see pins. I'm not sure you can see on screen, but there's the 5th pin that you need to align to, and you just have to push it in after that. And then once you align it, you just push it in and screw back on. So it's very tight. It's better than a lot of the cheaper IEMs, which just plug it in and you can accidentally dislodge them, while this one ensures that, you know, it remains inside the plug itself unless you purposely screw it open. So that's a good thing, right? Okay, with that said, I have tried everything. At least I can show you here. I just want to show you one more thing. So I bought it locally in Singapore, so I was saying that can I have this box for free. Now, FatFreq do say that for local customers, you can change the case for Maestro SE. If you don't want this case, you want a metal case, sure, you can change it. But for me, I was like, nope, I don't want. I want that case because it's good for keeping IEMs and for traveling. It's very durable and it has silica gel inside. So they gave me this case instead. Now, this is a simple plastic case that is, you know, well padded inside. You can actually keep your IEMs very safely. It's square and it's slick, and it does keep nicely in the pocket. So I do like it. Interesting, a square case actually gives you quite a good amount of space. It's just hard to squeeze the wire in. But, you know, it's a nice case and it's given for free with the Maestro SE. Now, the total price of this entire set, as I said, in Singapore, if you do purchase a FatFreq IEM, especially for me where I purchased it quite only a few weeks ago, they gave me a very good discount. But no, the exact numbers, you have to ask them exactly. But they told me it's like 10 to 15%. You should get it. no issues. As long as you purchase another FatFreq device, I don't know whether is there a time span to it, you can go and ask. So if you are a FatFreq owner and you are interested to upgrade, FatFreq do provide you a good deal. And you can always ask if they can give you a free box. But okay, that's about it. So let's actually have a quick first impression of this setup here. This is the FatFreq with the default tips and then with the cables. The thing is, right, many of us will use IEM in this default state. We will just buy it and use it out of the box. It's only very recently that I start rolling tips. Now, I'm not a big believer of rolling cables. I think that as long as the cable is good enough, the difference is actually quite small. Some IEMs don't even display any differences when you change cable. It's kind of weird. But some IEM do. And as long as the cables are good, you reach a limit where the differences are really small. Unlike the tips. Tips do change the sound drastically from the Type E to the Baroque to the stainless steel tips. It changes the sound so significantly that it literally becomes a different IEM. But that being said, I'm excited to test its default form. I'll get a DAP in and then we will try out the sound of it. Now, for this particular IEM, I will also do a comparison, and the comparison will be with the U12T because the default price of this IEM at 2,500 Sing dollars, or about 1,000, I believe 1,700, 1,800 USD. It's very, very close to the U12T, and I think it's a good comparison with it, especially at its default price. Now, without wasting time, let me go and get the players, and I'll be right back. So I'm back, and this is the SE300, a leather DAP from Esther & Kern. This is a really, really good DAP. I love it. It is really nice and smooth. Without wasting time, let's select a song. Now, for this itself, usually I will play, these days I like to try Backlight from Vonde. That's because it's a male sung vocals, and then after that I'll play all female vocals thereafter. But you know, it gives me a good understanding. And Vonde, this song has a lot of small little details in the instrument part of things that I noticed some IEMs can't even pick it up, especially the guitar that is electric guitar. There's this electric guitar that's playing behind, really, really soft, but it's actually distinct, and some IEMs do showcase it really clearly and some IEMs just gloss over it. So really love to use this song for testing itself, to just test out clarity, detail, separation, and generally response to the mids and highs. And of course, male vocals, because Vonde's voice is very powerful in this song itself. Okay, now I'll load out a song and have a listen. This is Vonde Backlight. Do go online to YouTube, search for his song. It is really awesome. So I've heard Vonde Backlight using the default configuration here. In fact, I never had a chance to listen in a quiet environment, so this is probably also the first time in quiet environment to listen to this particular earphones and in this particular song. Now, first I have to say a few things first. In terms of its general separation clarity, this is fabulous. All the electric guitar, all the cymbals, the vocals, everything is super, super clear. There's also this part in Backlight that has this very small little detail of electric guitar playing in the background on the right side. In this place, it's like separated and really distinct. Like I don't even need to spend a lot of time focusing to actually get the details here. This IEM showcases it. Now, the general tone of this IEM feels very either V or U shape. I think it's a bit, maybe a little bit more V, where there is one part of the vocal that's a little bit far behind. There's part of this mids. I think it's in the lower mids that is a bit further away. So for male vocals, which is more on the lower to mid to, yeah, lower to mid-mids, you know, it feels like Vonde's voice is a bit behind. So that's the difference in rendering. But everything else is like perfect, you know, the amount of details, the amount of energy is really, really good. The treble part of things, the sparkle is really just nice for me. Not too hot, not too bad, and a lot of details and good spread. And then when it comes with the bass, this bass is unlike the Scarlett and also unlike the Maestro Mini. The Maestro Mini bass feels a little bit more flabby, if you ask me. This is like, there is really good impact while still maintaining good amount of sub bass. Now, the amount of bass, I will need to compare the U12T because, you know, in my head, the U12T is also very similar V or U-shaped style sound and also very hot in the treble. I believe the U12T do have more treble, but, you know, I'll compare later. And the bass-wise, I think this one has a bit more bass, but, you know, once again, requires me to verify. And also, the extent of the UMV, I think, requires some comparison to really give you guys a good idea later. But overall, I'm very happy with this particular IEM, the Maestro SE, with Vonde's backlight. It sounds fabulous. The separation, the clarity, everything is really, really good. I mean, this is Vonde backlight. Now I want to hear a more vocal track, and that will be I No Akuruhi. Now I know Akuruhi can always be rendered in two particular ways. One is a very fragile sound. One is more of a generous, smooth, and calming voice. So I want to see how this IEM render. Is it the fragile, very you can break easily kind of sound, which I believe this is how the song should be rendered for this particular track. That's how I feel Ado is trying to push it. Or is it more just calming and smooth? Let's not waste time. I'll give a listen. Now, if you have not heard this song before, go online. I No Akuruhi can be found on Ado's YouTube very easily. So I have heard I No Akuruhi with this particular IEM. This is the Maestro SE again. Well, I have to say the truth that this renders closer to the more fragile sound that I believe this song is trying to convey. It's very emotional kind of fragile. So this IEM is closer to that. Now, it's not the perfect render. I think after I maybe change some tape, change the amplification, maybe you'll get even closer to what I think this song is trying to render. But it is close in the default state like this, and I do enjoy it. And also, even when it enters the chorus, it's like powerful but weak. The kind of emotions that this song carry, and it does carry through with this IEM. For female vocals, it's not like Vonde. Vonde was like a bit behind. While for female vocals, it actually shifted in front a bit. So I believe that for the higher mids, is quite good. It's still not that bad. It's very clean, very clear, very projected up front. Of course, this is still a V or U-shaped style IEM, so it's not going to be like front and center stage compared to the rest of the instrument. The bass here is still very strong. Now, I know Akuruhi doesn't have a lot of bass, but the Maestro SE does bring in a lot of impact and quite a good amount of sub. So I'm really excited to try the U12T to see what's the difference here. And then when it comes to the highs, it's very clean, very clear. All the smaller instruments, there's like violin, guitars, no cymbals for this one, but the age of those instruments, which is mainly in the treble region, are very well rendered, very clean, very crisp. It is a very good rendering of all the treble things that get affected by it. And there's also a lot of air, which is also in the treble region. Ado's voice on this particular track feels very big and airy, so it's good. Now, is this the biggest soundstage I ever heard? No, I think the Onyx is actually bigger. It's smoother and bigger, but Onyx have really not much trouble. It's just the way it renders all these vibrations. Very interesting style of rendering, but I think that this one, if you're looking at a more focused voice that spreads out very widely, a lot of air, I think this guy is providing you that kind of quality. Now, that is it for me trying out musics. So the next thing I'm going to do is compare with other IEMs. And in this case, the closest price one, if you're looking at retail, as I said, this is cheaper because I purchased with the I purchased a Scarlett from them and they're giving me a discount. So if you do own another FatFreq, do ask them whether they can give you a discount. Maybe they will. But that being said, this is the U12T, very legendary in status, come out like a few years back, but it's still very, very good. And if you are a guy who like V-shaped sound, this is relatively V-shaped. But you know what? Let's choose a song to compare. And normally the next song I will compare with is most likely another Ado song. I love her song recently, so I will compare with Ibarra. Now, Ibarra is more of a powerful rock vocal pop song style, and if you have not heard it before, go and hear. Ado's voice is fantastic. It's very powerful, very forward, with quite a bit of instruments here, guitars, drums, all inside this particular track. So let's not waste time. I will hear it and give you guys a feedback really soon. So now I have heard both Maestro SE and U12T, the same song, Ibarra, and I got a few opinions. Now, to be fair, the U12T is upgraded to quite a bit. Firstly, of course, it's not using the default tip. This is actually the Omni tip. It's better for the U12T for various reasons. And then, of course, it's upgraded cable. It's a better cable than the default one. The difference is very small. I mean, some of you guys may not even hear any difference at all. But just note that the U12T is upgraded. Now, versus the Maestro SE in its default state, first thing, the bass-wise, the U12T actually has more bass. I never thought that that is true, but the FatFreq Maestro SE isn't as bassy as what I think it is. actually, I really don't think it's actually a little bit less bassy. I mean, if you look at the volume wise, maybe about 3 to 4 points lesser. I don't know the exact decibel, but definitely 3 to 4 points lesser in terms of the bass when it comes to actually playing it. Now, that is bass, but the impact of the bass and the feeling of the bass, I do feel that the Maestro SE does it more naturally. Means if there's impact, the impact is nice, smooth, clean, and the sub and the reverb after that is all better on the Maestro SE. I find that the bass on the U12T can be at times feel just a touch bloated, just a touch. I mean, the U12T is very good for bass. It's just that it's a pure BA, and I think the feeling of the bass is just not as natural sounding as the dynamic drivers inside the FatFreq Maestro SE. Now, that is bass. When it comes to mids, the mids are rendered quite differently. FatFreq's Maestro SE is a bit more focused on the upper mid, so it's a bit more brighter and livelier, while the U12T is a little bit more bodied, feels more full when it comes to the mids and vocals itself. Now, when it comes to certain instruments, depend on which instruments you are playing. If you are playing the guitar, I do find that electric guitar-wise, the U12T is not as exciting as the Maestro SE. The Maestro SE really have a very exciting electric guitar sound. Now, if you're plucking a guitar, then I would say as the U12T does render it like a little bit more correct, more full sounding, while the Maestro SE can be a bit more thin sounding for those things. So it's the same as vocals, where if you're looking for more body in the mids, then the U12T will give you that. If you are looking for a little bit more focus on the mid highs, then I would say as the Maestro SE does give you that. Now, there are some pros and cons, especially for Ado. Ado is a little bit more on the mid to high mid style of vocals, I feel. And in that case, I find that the U12T will give it more solid feel, but the Maestro SE gives it a more lively feel. So I do think that, at least for Ibarra, lively feel is the better way of rendering the vocals. So I do think that Maestro SE is actually a bit better here. Now, at certain parts of the song, I do think that more body do help out the IEM and makes it feel more full and correct. While the Maestro SE sometimes can reach a certain point where the vocals, especially when Ado is trying to stretch upwards, it can feel a little bit thin there. But this is like very minor. I think that if you compare the other IEMs, the Maestro SE is still actually very full-bodied. It's just not as full-bodied as the U12T, and the U12T does sound a little bit warmer there. Now, when it comes to the highs, I think that the general highs in the Maestro SE is rendered a little bit better. Now, the U12T's highs are very extended but a bit strong and bright, while the Maestro SE is a bit more extended and feels a bit smoother actually. Now, to me, the Maestro SE actually has a slightly hotter treble to me. I'm very sensitive to treble, so there is a little bit more treble energy on the Maestro SE compared to the U12T. At least when I listen to when the mids are at a certain amount of volume. So it means that the V shape on the Maestro SE is a bit more extreme, especially at the treble region. But in terms of smoothness, correctness, rendering, I do think that the Maestro SE is a touch better than the U12T. Just a touch. Now, is it a significant enough difference if you are a treble lover? I don't think so. I think both are very close. I mean, you may have a certain preference of a treble, then of course either one will win your heart depending on which you like. But if you just want treble energy, I think the difference is actually quite small, not significant enough to say. Now, there is one thing that is very significant when I was listening Ibarra, and that is soundstage. The Maestro SE soundstage is just a lot better than the U12T. It is a lot bigger, like a whole lot bigger. Just the vocals itself stretches past the eye if I look at my head as a soundstage, and the other instruments are outside the head, while the U12T gets compressed into the head itself. And not only that, the positioning, the Maestro SE positioning is like pinpoint, like if it's top right, it's top right, it's top left, it's top left, while the U12T just have blobs of general areas of sound, which is fine. I mean, seriously, I never complained about the U12T positioning before. It's just that the Maestro SE is so crazily good in positioning. So if you're looking at positioning, separation, and general clarity, I think the Maestro SE is a little bit better overall. But I think it's very slight. The only thing that is significant difference is the positioning part, which is crazy on the Maestro SE, and of course soundstage. Significantly better on the Maestro SE. Now, this is of course the first song, Ibarra, and now let's hear the second song. Now, the second song, I don't want to hear Ado anymore. Let's hear something else, and I want to maybe have a listen to, let's go for soundtrack, and I'll go for Wish of Mercury in the, I'll say as maybe a 3-minute mark, there is quite a lot of instruments and a lot of smaller details. I want to hear the differences there. So let's not waste time. Which from Mercury. So I have heard the Witch from Mercury for both of these IEMs again. Now, there are some differences again. Now, firstly, in terms of the overall energy in the sound, like, you know, Witch of Mercury is ultimately an orchestra soundtrack and is used in actually certain battle scenes in Gundam itself. The energy in the track itself, I would say as the U12T is a lot more energy. It's like so powerful there. That being said, it has a lot of energy, and a lot of this energy are in the mids and bass, a little bit of the high regions. The Maestro SE have the energy in the highs, but because this is not a vocal track, you don't get much energy in the mids or even the lower bass itself, you know, the mid bass area. So I think that's where the U12T really beats it in the energy. Those areas, especially for this particular track where there's bass, mids, highs all coming in together, the U12T just feels a lot more majestic and powerful. But that said, powerful is one thing. Now, when it comes to the soundstage, well, Maestro SE beats it. It's just so much bigger. It's an immersive experience, while the U12T is like a concert close-up experience. That's the difference. When it comes to certain instruments in the highs, I do think that the highs are rendered a little bit better. It's more distinct, a bit more smooth, and a little bit more clearer on the Maestro SE. And overall clarity, I think, is more clearer. Every single instrument is just more distinct in terms of separation, clarity, and also positioning for the Maestro SE. So when it comes to technical details, like the ultra technical details, I think the Maestro SE is doing a better job. The details here is so much better. Maybe saying so much better is also not exactly correct. I mean, U12T is really good. It's just the Maestro SE is extremely good in those cases. Now, when it comes to bass texture, I think that the bass texture on the Maestro SE feels more right. Once again, going back to the majestic feeling of all the bass coming in, I think the U12T just sounds more enjoyable. Now, there's always a difference between enjoyable and feeling more right. And in this case, I think the U12T is just more enjoyable when it comes to the bass part of things. It's definitely not more natural. It's definitely not more correct when it comes to the impact and the sub bass itself. I don't think it's more correct than the Maestro SE. You will smile while hearing the U12T when it comes to the bass part of things. Well, the Maestro SE is yes, you're not, yes, great, very natural and nice bass. But, you know, it's a different experience. Other than that, I don't really have much to comment. I mean, there's not much mid instruments, at least for this part of the tracks. I mean, there are certain, like, I believe, like violin. Now, the violin is a different feel here. You want to hear the more extended sound that the violin do create, then the Maestro does render it well. When you're hearing the general mid-oriented violins, then I would say as the U12T do render it very powerful and upfront and very engaging. So, you know, if I was to rate this, then the U12T is very engaging of an IEM, while the Maestro SE just feels bigger and more technically competent, and also more enjoyable in certain ways, because if you want a larger sound that's very extended in the highs, the Maestro SE does it very well. So, where do the sound quality lie for the Maestro SE, right? Now, the Maestro SE to me is an IEM that is V-shaped, definitely. It has very good amount of bass. I mean, losing the U12T is not a big deal because U12T has incredible amount of bass for IEM. I mean, my friend would say it's bloated. But you see, that's where the difference lies. The Maestro SE bass is not bloated. It is like really clean, very natural, good amount of impact, just not the same amount of quantity. And the control and the bass of the Maestro SE is better. I guess the texture and naturalness of the bass, the Maestro SE is better than U12T. Now, when it comes to mids, it becomes a difference of render. To me, the mids focus for the Maestro SE is more of the higher mids, while the lower mids is there, but it's a bit far behind. So certain instruments and of course male vocals that fall in those regions feels a little bit further less energy, while the high mids are very energetic. So if you are listening to female vocals, if you are listening to I'll say as violin that's playing on the upper registers or guitars, you do get that very high electrifying feel for the mids in those cases. And also because of how the thing is focused on the higher mids, I do feel that certain songs, especially like I Know Akuruhi, which is meant more to be a fragile sound, which you should not have so much body to the sound, then it's a lot nicer here also, that fragile feeling, which is mainly on the higher mids, and then it feels like it's going to break anytime. This is better. Now, when it comes to the treble, I will say as the treble on the Maestro SE is clearly a better treble. It is more clean, more clear, more smooth and extended compared to the U12T. Now, U12T does extend quite far, but you know, both of them can be piercing to the ear if on loud enough, but I feel that the whole smoothness part of thing in the Maestro SE is actually better. It's just more extended, more natural. And also, I feel that when instruments are playing the treble part of things, the cymbals and stuff, it just feels more, I say, easier to identify, and you can hear the sound more fully and more accurately. I feel that on the U12T at times it can feel like something smacking against it, and then you hear the treble sound. But you know, on the Maestro SE it does extend nicely. So if you ask me, the U12T is better in the mids and lower mids, while the Maestro SE is better on the higher mids and into the treble region. While in the bass region, if you want more bass and boomy, really big, powerful bass, then the U12T is a lot better in those aspects. Very strong, boomy, and powerful. While on the Maestro SE, it is less of those, but a lot more controlled. Still in good amount of quantity. Controlled bass in good amount of quantity is a very, very important thing if you're looking at high-end IEMs. Now, of course, I own the Scarlett Mini, and if you want crazy bass Canon, that's the IEM. It has even more bass than the U12T. Well, it is quite boomy there, but it is a very fun experience, especially if you're listening to it at the lower volumes. And overall, I would say as a sound signature, because of its larger soundstage, very good positioning, it is a really enjoyable IEM and very technically competent IEM. I think this is the most technically competent IEM I've tried so far when it comes to separation, clarity, positioning. Soundstage wise, I think the Onyx is bigger. I feel that the Onyx is actually bigger and more immersive, but this is like second or third so far. Overall, I really have no complaints. I mean, especially for its price of 2,000 plus Sing dollars, or 1,700, 1,800 USD, or maybe even 1,600, 1,500 if you got the discount. This is really, really good for its price. I have to honestly say, really, really good for its price. Now, I also tried the Grand Maestro, and personally, I think this is more special. To me, the Grand Maestro feels jack of all trades, master of none, while this one feels like a master of its overall dynamics, good bass with very good treble. It's a master there. It's a master kind of IEMs for me. Now, there is one complaint I would say, that when I'm trying, I do feel that these IEMs stick out too much from my ear, especially this tip. It sticks out really a lot from my ear. It feels very bulky and barely fitting in there. Now, my ears are on general in the mid-small size, so if you have in the mid-large ears, I think no issue, but if you have smaller ears, especially for females, this may not go in. This may be a little bit too big and it will stick out too much. Now, I'll be changing the tips so that it can fit in a little bit more, and it will change the sound signature slightly. Then I'll probably have a better opinion on the fitting itself for this IEM. Other than the fitting, I don't really have much else to say. I think this is a very competent IEM. In fact, this feels like my new benchmark for the 2K plus Sing dollars mark. I do think that the U12T, for certain things, is way better. But if you ask about technicality, I think this is even more competent than the U12T, quite a bit for me. Of course, the U12T is still a very fun and exciting IEM, and it's also really small, very light, easy to fit. And if you are into the big bass and still having big amount of highs, it is I feel a more exaggerated IEM in those cases than this one. This one is just slightly less exaggerated. And also not only that, because this one actually recessed the mids a bit, especially in the lower mids, I do think that if you're listening to male vocals, the U12T will probably be more exciting. So if you're listening to male rock, male pop, I think the U12T will actually do a better job than the Maestro SE. While if you're listening to female rock, female pop, I think the Maestro SE may have edge. And if you're listening to orchestra, depends on what kind of orchestra you're listening. If you're looking for something more relaxing, the Maestro SE is better. But if you're looking for something more energetic, the U12T is better. Now, the price difference is really small. I mean, in Singapore, if you buy a U12T, the price difference between this and the U12T is about 200 to 300 Sing dollars. So they are the same thing, the same price, just different flavor. So which flavor you want is up to you. But no, technicality, I do think that this is a superior technicality, but it has a lousier fit. So some trade-off here. That's already about it for today. I hope you enjoy my first look of the Maestro SE. And to me, this is one of the most, probably one of the best IEM I ever tried. Honestly, I've tried many now. One of the best IEM I ever tried, the Maestro SE. That's why for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.